The movie revolves around a troubled youth named Mike Tyson, who aspires to become a professional boxer. As he grows up, he gets himself involved with the wrong group of friends. One day, Mike is getting peer pressured into attacking a group of neighborhood boys with a gun. He confronts and shoots the kids, but luckily, no one is injured. However, he soon finds out that his friends have ditched him, and so he also flees the scene. Mike involves himself in similar situations, and by the age of 13, he has been arrested 38 times. This results in him getting incarcerated and put inside of Tryon Juvenile Detention Center. It is there where Mike's emerging boxing ability was recognized by a former boxer named Bobby Stewart. After several months of training, Bobby brings him to Catskill, a boxing gym club in New York City, and introduces him to the renowned trainer, Cuz D'Amato. Mike engages in a sparring session with a boxer from the club, and Cuz is instantly impressed with his strength and potential. As a result, he decides to take Mike under his wing and invites him to stay at his home, where he trains his other fighters. Upon arriving at the house, Cuz introduces Mike to his wife, Camille. However, she appears to be frustrated with Mike's addition to the house, as they already have a sufficient number of people living there. Cuz begins to rigorously train Mike to make him one of the best fighters. One day, a 16-year-old Mike gets the unfortunate news that his mother has passed away, so he travels back home to Brooklyn to attend her funeral, heartbroken. Despite the somber occasion, Mike doesn't spend much time in Brooklyn and instead returns to New York to continue his training. In remembrance of his mother, he decides to build a pigeon coop outside the home where he's staying, which serves as a touching tribute to her memory. One day, Cus approaches a grieving Mike and motivates him by saying that a professional boxer keeps pushing on no matter what he's feeling or going through. Cus then passes down a gold pin to Mike, which was given to him by the legendary boxer Muhammad Ali. This makes him ecstatic and further fuels his drive to train for his upcoming fight. The movie then cuts to the Junior Olympics of 1982, where Mike makes his first amateur boxing fight debut. To everyone's shock, he wins the fight with a TKO just 8 seconds into the first round. Meanwhile, it turns out that Cus wanted to adopt Mike, so he informs his wife about it. Surprisingly, Camille wholeheartedly accepts the decision, as she too wants him to stay with them forever. When Mike returns to New York, he's overjoyed to learn that he will be adopted by Cus and Camille, and the prospect of a brighter future fills him with hope. The next day, he's introduced to 2 boxing managers named Jimmy Jacobs and Bill Clayton. Cus tells Mike that they will help to keep him out of any sort of trouble that may arise in his journey to become #1. After his first proper boxing match, Mike's old and bad habits start to resurface, causing him to slack off in his training and become a difficult pupil. Tries to talk to Cus about Mike's behavior, but to no avail. Since he has a soft spot for the boy, he pampers him a lot. Shortly after, Teddy is confronted by his underage sister, who claims that Mike tried to have his way with her, enraging him. So the same night as Mike returns back home, Teddy pulls a gun on him and warns him to never do such a thing ever again. However, Mike is not intimidated and simply smiles at Teddy. This infuriates the latter so much that he fires a warning shot, alerting everyone inside the house. The next morning, Teddy decides to leave the fighter house after his controversial actions the previous night. As a result, Cus subpoints Kevin as Mike's new trainer, and he quickly rises through the ranks, knocking out his opponents left, right, and center. Mike is given the nickname Iron Mike Tyson because of his sheer strength to knock opponents out, mainly in the first round of his fights. However, as he gains popularity, Cus's health starts to deteriorate. After a few weeks of intense pain, he eventually succumbs to his old age and dies, devastating Mike. Now, with no one left to manage Mike, Jimmy decides to take over as his manager and reassures him that he isn't going anywhere. The movie then cuts to 1986, where Mike takes part in the match against Trevor Berbick in Las Vegas at the World Boxing Council Heavyweight Championship. Mike completely dominates the fight and breaks world records as he becomes the youngest champion in boxing history at just 20 years of age. One day while studying a fight for an upcoming match, Mike refuses to stay focused and instead watches a commercial where a beautiful model named Robin Givens catches his attention. He becomes invigorated with the lady and even phones her up, asking to go out with her. Luckily, she shows up at his next fight against Tony Tucker. Mike performs poorly in the early rounds because of the pressure of Robin being there. However, Kevin notices this and with a little motivation, Mike finally puts on an entertaining show and wins the match, retaining his heavyweight title. After the game, Mike and Robin head home in a limousine where one thing leads to another, and they have coitus. They also start an official and public relationship. A year later, Mike gets married to a 3-month-old pregnant Robin in secret. Unfortunately, his happiness doesn't last long, as shortly after his marriage, he's informed that Jimmy has passed away due to his leukemia. This puts a mental toll on Mike, as he has again lost a person whom he loved and trusted. Later that week, while going to Jimmy's funeral, Mike is approached by a boxing promoter named Donald Don King. He has come with an incredibly high-paying offer which no boxer can refuse. However, to his surprise, Mike declines it and instead decides to make Don his fight promoter. Following this decision, a lot of controversy surrounding Bill and Don start to circulate as the two fight over Mike's future contract. After a while of back and forth, Robin also joins in on the controversy, accusing Bill and Don of swindling Mike and using him for money. A few months later, Mike and Robin suffer from a miscarriage, further stressing Mike out, and he slacks off in his training. One day, he shows up at the boxing club after many days of absence and gets scolded by Kevin for his carelessness. Mike, however, couldn't care less and begins to train recklessly. Frustrated with his attitude, Kevin says that Robin wasn't even pregnant to begin with, and that he is sulking for no reason. It is then revealed that Robin had actually lied about getting pregnant in order to manipulate Mike into marrying her. This news has already become public, but nonetheless, Mike is enraged to hear it from Kevin. So in response to this, he calls two trainers one by one and brutally knocks them out. The movie then cuts to 1988, to the night of one of Mike's biggest fights with Michael. However, before the match starts, Bill finds out that he's been fired by Mike, making Don his new manager. Mike ends up winning the match and everyone cheers him on. After the match, it turns out that Mike has also parted with Kevin and plans on training with the trainers that Don has managed for him. One day, while Mike and Robin do a joint interview for the ABC TV News magazine show, things take an unexpected turn when the latter describes her life as pure hell. She also takes shots at Mike's worsening mental health issues, stating to leave the marriage if he doesn't seek therapy. A betrayed Mike just sits there and listens to his wife rant on and on. Meanwhile, Don, Kevin, and many others watch the interview on TV in pure shock. This leads to many disputes and arguments between the couple, even to the point when police are called to their property to handle the situation. In one instance, the cops arrive to witness Mike throwing a tantrum and breaking several household items, while Robin and her mother decide to move out of the house. A few days after the incident, Mike and Don watch Robin on TV telling the press that Mike has become an emotionally abusive husband, also announcing that she's filed for divorce. To loosen up and unwind, Mike goes on a night out to a club where he's approached by many women who want to have fun. Amidst the crowd, he's confronted by an old opponent of his who starts to run his mouth to Mike and insults him as well as Robin. In a fit of rage, Mike swings at the boxer and takes him down before fleeing the scene in his limo. The movie fast forwards to a year later in 1990 in Tokyo, Japan, to Mike's next professional fight against Buster Douglas. However, it's clear that he's lost direction in his career because of the stress and disarray from his personal life. As a result, Mike performs poorly in the fight and continuously gets beaten around the ring. He does manage to knock Buster down, but the latter immediately gets back up on his feet and lands even harder blows. Everyone is devastated to see the Iron Mike in such a state for the first time, and unfortunately, he gets knocked out in the 10th round. This leads to him losing the first match in his entire career, and hence he is stripped of his heavyweight championship title. Mike is lost for words after having his first loss, while Don insists on suing the boxing company, thinking that he had won the fight. Afterwards, Mike returns to New York and visits an old Camille. The two reminisce about the old days and talk about Cuss. A year later, Mike and some of his friends travel to Indianapolis to be a part of the Miss Black America pageant. They head over to meet some of the girls who will be participating in the event, and Mike lays his eyes on one of them named Desiree Washington. The same evening, he calls up the hostel that Desiree and her friends are staying at and requests for her. She then talks to him nervously while all her other friends listen in shock. In the end, Mike manages to convince Desiree to go out and party, promising her that she will meet lots of other celebrities. So shortly after, she gets into the limo with Mike, who takes her back to her hotel, claiming that he needs to get his bodyguard. However, upon arriving at the hotel, Mike takes her up to his room. It is then revealed that in 1991, Mike has been brought to trial for the assault of 18-year-old Desiree Washington in the hotel room that he had taken her in. Mike is eventually found guilty on the charges of assault and criminal deviant conduct. This results in him getting 6 years in the Indiana Youth Center. Furthermore, Kevin has also filed a civil lawsuit against Mike for damages. It's also revealed that he and Robin had already divorced in 1989, and the terms of their settlement were sealed. Upon Mike's release from prison on March 25, 1995, He announced that he will immediately resume his boxing career, while Don retains his role as his promoter. However, he's also scheduled to stand trial for insurance fraud.